really, I wouldn't change a thing necessarily at this point. But I am glad that this happened and put me in a position where I did have to think, okay, what is it that I'm doing? What do I see in my future? How can I, create this financial freedom and, not just always rely on my W-2 job.
Welcome to the InvestNest Real Estate Investing Show, a community for real estate investors to learn, network, and grow. Be sure to join the investnest.com and start learning and earning today.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Travis Murphy, your host of the InvestNest Real Estate Investing Show. Thanks again for joining me this week. We've got another great Invest guest joining us. I just wrapped up an awesome interview with Whitney West with West Invests, and she tells us all about her real estate investing journey. Really good stuff in this interview. I think you guys are gonna like it. But before we start, I want to remind everybody, if you're listening to the podcast, to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future shows. And of course, leave us a rating and review if you're enjoying the show so far. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Invest Nest. So go give us a follow there. And check out theinvestnest.com. It's an online social networking community for real estate investors. And you can create a free profile. So it's totally free. You can get started right away and start networking. All right. And now I'm going to welcome our Invest guest, Whitney West, to the show. She's with West Invests, and she's going to share her real estate investing journey with us. Whitney, how are you doing today?
Hey, Travis, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've got going on with real estate.
Yeah, sure. So I am new to all of this. As of September, we closed on my first property with some of my partners. But yeah, I'm very new, very eager to get really started in my investing career.
Awesome. Congratulations on your first deal.
Thank you.
Okay, well, very cool. So tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate investing, what you were doing before and why you decided to get started with it.
Yeah, sure. So I actually work for a company called the Commencement Group. I still do work there. I'm the VP of Operations. And the Commencement Group, we basically contract with universities throughout the country, and we provide services at their commencement ceremonies. So back in March of this year, obviously Corona hit and really devastated everything, but the events industry in particular took, a real plunge. So my company, we actually had to go into furlough for a little bit. We're back on now and, going strong, but I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I was suddenly faced with this decision of what to do with it, and just thinking about my financial future and everything, because I was very stable in my career prior to March, so I hadn't really given it a lot of thought. And at that point, a couple of my friends had approached me, and they were going to get into real estate investing. And I had always been super interested in houses. I was one of those HGTV junkies, but I never thought of it as a reality for me. I used to watch Chip and Joanna games, of course, and I would watch these young couples buying houses, and I would just think to myself, how are these people doing this? It just didn't make sense to me. I was always a renter. I always just rented apartments. I thought houses were way too much of a commitment. I just didn't see the investment opportunity.
Yeah. So real quick, so you had your regular W-2 job, career going strong,
yeah.
And obviously what happened this year with the pandemic, it was an eye opener for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people in our careers, we feel security, but it's a false sense of security, because you're really at the mercy of your employer and whatever they're subject to. Which
exactly.
It sounds like you are leaning now on real estate for that supplemental income, or that passive income, I should say, because that can provide more of a security blanket. So is that what kind of spurred you, along with your friends, to getting into real estate?
Exactly. I think it was just that realization. I used to think I had so much security, in my job. Like I made really good money. And I was very happy with it. I was able to travel and, afford those luxury things that I enjoyed at the time. Like I've had a huge mindset shift in those terms, but,
tell us about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So the past 8 years I am still with the commencement group, but over the past 5 years, I just started really making the money that I wanted to make and doing really well with them. And I played it smart out of college. I was in probably $75,000 debt after college, and I decided to live home at my parents' house until I was 26, I believe. And I paid off all my debt, so I was good to go there. And then I was also simultaneously started making good money. So I, instead of thinking of buying a house or something like that, I wanted to go live in one of those luxury apartments. So that's what I did. I went to one luxury apartment in New Jersey. That's where I grew up. And then I moved to Georgia and moved into luxury apartments in Georgia. So that was just what I liked living that way. I really enjoyed the ease of it and the amenities. Yeah. And I was just a total consumer. Recently got into a lease with Volvo. So, luxury car, luxury apartments. And it wasn't for show to anyone. I just enjoyed that life. And
it's a natural, I think it's a natural progression for people. When you start making more, you start spending more. It's not about anything other than you just feel good because you're making money and you want to have the nice things to show the fruits of your labor.
Exactly.
But it sounds like that something's changed and maybe you have a different mindset now. How do you feel about spending money and your finances currently?
So I not only was I spending money on the living, I was also traveling a lot and everything as well.
Living a good life, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do not regret it for a second. I'm so happy that I lived my 20s that way. Really, I wouldn't change a thing necessarily at this point, but I am glad that this happened and put me in a position where I did have to think, okay, what is it that I'm doing? What do I see in my future? How can I, create this financial freedom and, not just always rely on my W-2 job. And so that really, when Corona hit, before that, I had no intention of really investing in real estate. I had an intention of maybe buying myself a personal, property eventually, or buying, vacation homes and stuff like that. But I didn't see it as the opportunity that I now know it to be. And see the potential in. So
you mindset shift, different perspective on things after what happened this year. So that's awesome. So now let's talk about real estate. So what happened? You had this mindset shift. You realized you need a little bit more security with your finances. What happened next?
Well, first of all, I probably never would have still taken the plunge had it not been for my partners. I have 3 other female partners that were my friends beforehand. And they really pushed me to see this as a viable opportunity. And I think if I had just started the journey on my own, I don't know if I would have, pushed myself necessarily to just dive in. Whereas because it was the 4 of us and we were working together, we didn't spend a long time in the analysis or get stuck in analysis paralysis. We started really working together in June. That's when we started having meetings and looking at properties and everything like that. And we closed on our first property in September after, making a lot of offers and everything. So we didn't really allow ourselves to get stuck. We were like, okay, we're doing this. Let's go.
So had your friends already been investing, any of them, or are you all new to it?
So 2 of them live in Georgia and 1 of them lives in New Jersey. And I also live in Georgia. I'm home in New Jersey for the holidays right now. But the 2 that live in Georgia, one of them had accidentally bird a house a few years ago. It just happened, and she realized what she did after.
Mhm.
And then she also owns her own personal residence that she house hacks right now. And then our other partner down there, she has just helped out on those previous properties. And she has, her family's really into the real estate game as well. So they're very knowledgeable. And then my partner in New Jersey was also just really into the reading about it, the podcasts and everything like that. Yeah. So we were kind of hadn't done anything before, but they had, so it was kind of like a good mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, having partners, or maybe the fact that you would not have gotten into real estate investing if it hadn't been for somebody else kind of pushing you. And the same could probably be said for them as well. So sometimes, that partnership push, or just having other people to bounce the ideas off, or kind of further that goal, or further that concept with, really is helpful. I mean, I have business partners that I invest with, and I had not done much investing before I met up with them and started with them as well. We did kind of a similar thing. We started getting together, having meetings, identify what we wanted to do. So tell us, I guess, what did you guys do? How did that work? You started meeting in June. Did you put together an LLC? Did you guys already all know what you kind of wanted to do, or like, how did all that come together?
I'll tell you, Travis, it was kind of flying by the seat of our pants, a lot of it. Our meetings, like, we would do 3 meetings a week, all on Google Meet, just because we were all in different places. And none of us really knew what the process should look like, how we should do things logistically. We did not get an LLC set up first. We did that recently, which is great, but there were just certain things that we didn't quite know fully. And I think that's something that it's important for people that are just getting into it to know, that it's okay to not be doing everything the right way starting out. And the cool thing with real estate is there isn't really a right way for a lot of things. There's a way to figure things out if you do things the wrong way, but it's not necessarily just a clear path for everyone. So
that's a really good point. I want to kind of drive that home for the listeners out there, because I talk a lot about it is important to educate yourself, and you do want to know what you're doing to an extent, but you're never going to have it perfect. You're never going to go in and execute something, even 5 years into your investing career, when you do know much more than when you first started. There's always going to be surprises. There's going to be things you could have done differently. So, and there isn't a right or wrong way. I mean, if you're a person that needs to feel a little bit more comfortable, spend a little bit more time researching, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a person that's more, out of the gate, a go-getter, and just wants to kind of tackle it and take it on and trial by fire, kind of learn along the way, there's nothing wrong with that either. It really depends on the person. I do like to always remind everybody to it is investing, so there is money risk involved. So you kind of want to know what you're doing to an extent, but some people wait and wait and wait, and others just go in and go after it. And either way, in either case, there's going to probably be a similar outcome. There's going to be mistakes made, and you're going to learn in either path you take. So that's awesome. I like that. We talk a lot about other people that kind of do all the research and have all their ducks in a row. And this is nice to hear a different perspective of just kind of getting in there and getting after it and making it happen. And you're right. There's no right or wrong way. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if it hadn't been for my partners, I would have been the person that was just spending years learning, because I was the one when they first approached me, I bought all these books and just started listening to podcasts and just delving into the vast amount of content that's out there. And I was so focused on that. And I was definitely the most risk averse of all of us. And during meetings, I would constantly be the one oh guys, I don't know if we should do this. This seems scary to me. And if it weren't for the extra push that they were making, I would have just stayed reading and learning until I felt, because that's just the kind of person I am. I like to understand something fully before diving in usually. And I am totally in a place where I still hardly understand anything fully with real estate. am learning as I go, and I feel good about that, especially because I do have the partners to lean on, and
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all are. I'm still learning as we go. It's a continual process, but that's
yeah,
another huge benefit of partnerships. Because someone who may be a little bit more risk averse versus somebody else, the opposite side of that spectrum, the partnership kind of strikes a balance between all the members of that partnership. And it may not be as fast as some may like it. It may not be as cautious as others may like it, but finding that balance, and once everybody is comfortable with it, that in itself is helping kind of mitigate some of the risk. So
definitely.
very good point there. So what did you guys identify and end up purchasing? That you
So
closed in September, right?
yes, in September. It happened in early August. Our offer was accepted, I think, August 7th. It was on a four-plex, so that was very exciting. It was an off-market deal that our agent had brought to us. It was definitely a tumultuous month and a half that the process went on. There were a lot of ups and downs. We didn't think we were going to actually get the property at so many points. It was an emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. But the property just made so much sense with the numbers and the location and everything. And we just knew we had to have it. We had to do anything that we could to make the deal go through. But the main problem we ran into with it was during appraisal, because it's a fourplex because it got converted into a fourplex, but it's classified duplex, and there was a lot of back and forth, appraisal companies not wanting to take it up and different things like that. So, but we finally made it through. The deal closed September 25th. My one partner and I from New Jersey, we drove down there and, went to closing day. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And then we inherited tenants on the one side, and then the other side, we fixed up the 2 units on the other side. So right now, everything's rented out. I'm house hacking one of the units, so I'm in the studio there.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's kind of where we are. We have the fourplex going. It's up and running well, and we're just on to the next thing at this point.
Yeah, this is really good stuff. So you guys bought a fourplex that wasn't a purpose-built fourplex. It was a duplex. And so like you said, there were some challenges getting to closing. There usually are. Yeah. And when you're in the midst of that, it can be very stressful and cause a lot of anxiety. And hindsight, after the fact, sometimes that can be part of the fun, but I guess it just depends on how it turns out. But you kept pushing, right? You guys kept pushing forward, and you made it to closing. And the appraisals, I guess, were having a hard time because they were probably comping based off of duplexes, where you guys are looking at the numbers. You guys are looking at the financials behind it. And if it's cash flowing as a quad, and you guys are making money on your investment, that's what matters to you. So instead of getting scared off by the fact that maybe it wasn't meeting its appraisal and thinking we're overpaying for this, you guys were able to identify that doesn't matter, because you guys have a plan. You guys know your numbers, and you know what your goal is. And this investment's going to help you achieve that goal. So you pushed forward, you closed. That's awesome. And then you're house hacking it. So you're living in one of the units.
Yes, I am.
That is cool.
We had to do an FHA loan on it. So we did that in my name. And again, I know like a year from now, already we look back and we're like, oh, I wish we had financed a different way, because we didn't want to put anything in our individual names. And, we didn't do the whole LLC thing before that. And, there's so much that I know we would have done different. But at this point, we are where we are. We have the property. It's working out. And yeah, I'll house hack it just for this year under the FHA loan. And then once I'm done with that, we'll rent that unit out, and it'll be great when all those units are rented and we can just kind of let it sit.
Yeah. Are the other 3 units rented currently?
Yes.
So it's fully occupied.
Fully occupied. Yes.
Nice.
We're very happy about that.
Nice. And like you said, you learned through this first investment, right? That you could have done some things differently. But if you hadn't done the first investment, you wouldn't know any of these things.
Yeah.
So, you gotta get in there and just start doing it, and you're going to learn regardless. And now, if you go on, when you go to take down your next investment, you kind of know better what to do, what to
Right.
avoid and how to set it up. And that's part of the process. That's part of the fun with real estate investing. Obviously some of these mistakes can be costly, but it's there's no two deals alike. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's a lot of different strategies and approaches, and that's why it's kind of fun, because you can be creative and do things in a lot of different ways, and as long as it works out for you and your partners, that's all that really matters. So you guys are in your first investment, and what are you guys going to do now? Are you going to start the LLC, or what's your plan going forward?
Yeah, so we already created the LLC, so just still waiting for that to officially go through. But we are still making offers on properties. Haven't gotten anything accepted yet. We are in the process of some talks with a few, trying to figure out some seller financing. We're definitely focused on the creative financing at this point and figuring that out, because we don't want to necessarily go the conventional route right at this particular moment again. We would prefer to do something creative. So we're trying to navigate that. And
I want to talk about that in just a minute, but real quick, just back to your quad. You said you did some renovations on it. Did you guys do those yourself, or did you contract that out?
Yes, we did it all ourselves. There was a few things we had to have a handyman come in for, but we did all that ourselves. And we were actually very lucky. The condition that it was in, it was not horrible. Like, it was mostly cosmetic, like flooring, paint, nothing too crazy. So it was actually a lot of fun. Like, we all enjoy that kind of hands-on aspect of it. And it's cool when you can take something from looking one way and completely change it on your own, and be able to like visually see that change was fun. And we saved some money there, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. So I want to ask you this real quick too. Are you guys managing it yourself, or are you outsourcing the management?
Yes, we are managing it ourselves. And one other mistake that we had made with that originally was not really looking into, everyone says, like, if you're house hacking it, don't let people know that you're also an owner. We kind of made that mistake early on. They all had already known that I was the owner, the existing tenants that lived there. So we kind of mitigated things, and now the partner, Bridget, that lives in New Jersey, she handles all tenant relations and that sort of thing. So I don't actually talk to the tenants anymore, because I was very nervous after I found out, don't do that, that I had already made that mistake. Yeah,
well, I mean, and that depends on the person and their personality. You may not want, the reason why, it's thought to not if you're house hacking, let the other tenants know that you're the owners, because the thought is, or the theory is that every time there's an issue, they come knocking on your door.
Right.
It sounds like you guys were able to recognize that early on and shift the responsibilities to the other partner, which is great, because then you're kind of more like a good cop, bad cop kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
If the tenants come bugging you about something, you'd be like, look, I have no control over that. That's you got to call such and such. So
exactly. I just smile at them. I'm friendly to them, and I let the problems shift to the other.
You're like, I'm just living here because they couldn't get the loan without me. I don't know, whatever. Just come up with something that just kind of that's funny. So, but I wanted to ask about the management in kind of that goes hand in hand with the fact that you guys did the renovations yourself. So, for our listeners out there, for people that haven't done real estate investing, or they're trying to get started in real estate investing and they're having a very hard time, finding a deal, or they can't make the numbers work. I mean, sometimes this is what you have to do. You found partners, you guys came together so that you could draw on each other's resources and knowledge and experience, and you're doing the renovations yourself. Maybe it's in order to make the numbers work, you're self-managing, maybe to make the numbers work. real estate sounds really fun and exciting, and it is, but it's also not just easy. It's not just free
Yeah.
money. I mean, you have to put the work in and the effort and the hustle. And so I just wanted to drive that point home for our listeners out there that, it's not just all the bells and whistles and the pictures that everybody likes to see and share.
Yeah.
There's a lot, you guys, in order to make this deal work, you had to do a lot of the work yourselves. And so that's really cool. I mean, that's a good, perfect example of what it takes sometimes in order to get into an investment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think right now, because there are four of us, like the things like property management and the renovations that we are able to easily do, like we're still going to tackle those ourselves for at least the foreseeable future, just, bring our costs down, and because we are able to. But once we hit a point that we have scaled a lot, we obviously are going to need to put those systems in place and everything. So
yeah, and I always like to recommend too to kind of build that stuff into your numbers anyway, if you can.
Right, right.
Sometimes you can't if you're trying to make the deal work, but like the property management, for sure, if you can kind of build that into your cash flow, even if you're planning to manage it yourself, it's better off in case for some reason you're not able to manage it anymore. So that's a good point as well. And so I want to talk to you for a minute now about financing. You guys said you went conventional for the first, acquisition, but it sounds like for your next move, you're trying to get creative and do a different type of funding. What's your approach there? How are you planning to try to take down your next property?
So I think seller financing is something that we all find very interesting. And we, especially because we don't want to get another loan in one of our names right now, doing something like that where you're not necessarily tied to a bank and you're just with the individual selling the house, and you can save on some of those other costs affiliated with closing. So we're kind of trying to go that route. But we are also exploring hard money, private money. Definitely those are things that scare me. But I think that I am getting more comfortable with the idea of it, just especially seeing how many people do this and are successful with it. And it's like, I look at me and my partners and I'm like, well, why can't we do that? We definitely can. So we just need to really, we're focused on right now finding those paths and actually starting to utilize them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, owner financing, it does exist for the listeners out there. It actually does exist. You just have to ask. Not everybody will do it, but you have to ask, it depends on the seller and their motivation for selling and where they are financially. A lot of times sellers don't mind having continual income if they're owner financing part of the deal or the deal itself. They just maybe don't want to manage it anymore. You still own it. It's just a loan mortgage to the property, and they're just collecting money at that point. So
yeah, exactly.
not everybody does. Some people are selling because they want to get out of it or they want to buy something else or for whatever reason, but it just depends on the motivation of the seller. And you don't know if somebody's willing to do owner financing unless you ask them. So throw the offer out there. If that's the way you're trying to structure, put the offer in with the owner financing, and the worst thing that can happen is they just say no.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool. And then as far as the hard money and private money, I mean, that stuff, it's there. It's available to people. And it can be scary, I guess. Just be careful. Make sure you know the person that you're working with. If it's a hard money lender, check some of their references or whatever. If they've got a website, make sure it's legit with other people that have used them. And then, of course, find out what their fees are. You want to make sure you are able to factor all those fees and costs into your budget. So when you're taking something down, there's no surprises that there's no surprise fee or cost that throws your numbers out. So, and just another suggestion, private notes. I mean, if you have high net worth friends and family, private notes, which you'd be surprised. That's a good investment for people. I mean, that's not like they're not jumping into the equity of an investment, so they don't potentially share your upside gains, but their downside risk is mitigated by the fact that, it's a loan, so they're getting a guaranteed return, however you set that up. And you can even record a mortgage on the property with the person on the private note, they're able to foreclose and take the property if you don't pay them back as well.
Right.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
all this stuff can be done, and it's not as complex. You do want to, understand it and learn about it, but closing attorneys, you don't have to be a realtor to call a closing attorney, and they'll help you set these agreements and stuff up. They'll help you write
Right.
notes and do all of the things that need to be in place. So there's a lot of options out there. It's whatever you're comfortable with, but I'm sure you guys are going to find a way to find your next deal sooner or later. I have full confidence in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you guys going from here? I know you're making offers and you're trying to get creative with financing, but what type of properties are you looking for? What's your goals? It's 2021.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about, the new year, fresh kind of start for the new year, and writing down our goals and going after accomplishing them. So what are your goals, and what are you guys going to do to try to, accomplish them?
Yes. So I think we all have slightly varying goals. We definitely have the same vision and, similar visions, but obviously we are still individuals at the end of the day with our own goals as well. So right now, the property types that we're looking at still, the small multifamily or properties where we can create that sort of house hack and rent by room, or, make the garage into its own separate unit, just properties where we can get creative with how they're rented. That's definitely what we're trying to do. And then, hoping to get at least 6 more properties in 2021. And then, eventually going into the more commercial, the larger multifamilies, the apartments and, the smaller apartments and everything. And that's really on the horizon for us, I think.
Yeah. And I talk about this a lot too. I mean, that kind of is the progression of investors when they start. You kind of start with a house hack or a small multi, and everybody's goal is kind of to scale up to a mid-sized apartment,
Yeah.
But honestly, though, the more that you research and understand about any aspect or any stage of that, path, one's not really better than the other, and you don't have to do one before the other. So
Right.
if you educate yourself and learn how, back to creative financing and how things are funded, in certain cases, those larger multifamilies can actually be easier to fund depending on
Right.
what the circumstances are. And if you're knowledgeable and comfortable, there's nothing wrong with going right after that. But, taking certain steps first and making sure that you guys have the experience and are comfortable with it, there's nothing wrong with that either. So you said the goal is how many is it buildings or units for 2021?
6 more buildings in 2021. So
Buildings. Okay.
we'll see. So if those are, duplexes, quads, houses we can turn into multifamily type situations,
So we're gonna have to have you back for sure, obviously, because we're gonna check in to see how you're making out with these goals.
Exactly. And I did write them down. I am a big fan of that too, writing down the goals, and also, re-examine them now and then and making room for new goals or adjusting. But a huge fan of writing down what you see in the future. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So how are you guys going to, accomplish this and make sure that you're focused on your goals? It's a good thing to write them down, and the fact that you have partners, everybody kind of can hold each other accountable. Is that the approach?
Exactly. The holding each other accountable for sure. We still have our weekly meetings 3 times a week. And then in addition to that, we really are talking every day throughout the day as well. So even though we're all, working our day jobs as well at this point, we are still making time to have real estate be a huge focus for all of us. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. What do you do for fun when you're not, out here trying to take down multifamily deals?
Well, obviously this year has been limiting, but I love to travel, and South Africa is really my place that I always go back and forth to. So that's, I'm hoping to get back there at the end of this year. And I'm a runner, so I run 6 miles a day, which is honestly the best way to start my day. Some days I do skip it, but I find that really is the best way to start out, really set yourself up for the day. And I truly enjoy it, like being out there running. So, and yeah, other than that, just spending time with my family when I can come home and see them and everything. It's very important to me.
That's good. I mean, that's the thing. We talk a lot about real estate and grinding, but you can't get caught up in the grind. You need to enjoy yourself. Traveling and health, of course, is a huge factor in life. It's not just money, but if you don't have your health, there's no point in having money. So
exactly.
Very cool. Okay. And now it's time for our segment, Advice from Our Invest Guests. This week's segment is going to be brought to you by firstchairshop.com. Go check it out for your ski and snowboarding apparel. If you're into skiing and riding, they've got some really cool t-shirts and hoodies on there. So check out firstchairshop.com. And three questions for our guest. Number one, what's one thing that you can recommend for people to do right now to get started in real estate investing that haven't started yet?
Right now, I would just say pick up a book, pick up any of there's so many resources, but any of these books that just get you hyped up for what your future could potentially look like. Obviously the Rich Dad Poor Dad is the one that so many people cite as being that like shift for them, but there are so many others that exist for women out there right now. In particular, I'm really loving The Only Woman in the Room that was just compiled by Ashley Wilson. Really just super motivating to get yourself to start thinking differently about where you can potentially see yourself.
Awesome. That's actually question 3. So you already answered it. No, that's good though, because I haven't read that book, but I've heard about it. I've heard it's got really good reviews and it's really popular and helpful for a lot of people. So good recommendation. Okay. Number 2, we'll save number 2 for last.
Okay.
Number 2 is one thing that you would do differently on the next go around now that you've already started, now that you have started investing. We touched on this already, but can you point to like one specific thing?
I think really just, I don't know. I can't say that I would do anything differently yet, I guess, because it is still so fresh and I'm still, learning everything. And I don't know what the next thing that's going to happen is and whether what just happened is going to impact that. So I don't think I would do anything differently because I think our future is bright and we're going to get there. And
awesome. That's a good answer. That's the first, I wouldn't do anything different I've gotten so far, but that makes perfect sense. I mean, I love it. Great advice right there. Just do it. And you're going to have some mistakes. There's things that you could potentially change, but you're not going to know what to change if you don't do it. And that's a good point. So, if you had done things a different way, you may not have learned what you guys learned on the first one.
Exactly.
So, Whitney, it's been an absolute pleasure. Before we wrap up, for our listeners out there that want to learn more about you and your partners and what you guys are doing, how can they connect with you?
So the best way would be on Instagram. I don't have a ton of content. I'm not very good at content creation, but my handle's at West Invest. And then my partners, they typically do more of that. So, and I know you're going to put their handles in the show notes, but Bridget on a Budget, Free Shift Flips, and The Landlord, and they're all amazing women. And, I hope everyone follows them as well. I usually just repost what they put up. But for me, Instagram has been more of a tool for connecting with others than the networking. And I really love that aspect of it. So I'm going to continue doing that. So feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Instagram can be great for networking. And you're on the Invest Nest, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. I just finished making my profile. I'm very excited to be part of that community.
Awesome.
So thank you for the opportunity too.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you. Thanks for joining. So, all right. Well, I'm going to make sure I have all of those links in the show notes for our listeners out there. If they want to, reach out to you, connect with you, network, or just see what you guys are doing, follow along in your journey. But it is West Invests on Instagram. So Whitney, thank you so much for joining me. It's really cool to hear what you guys are doing and the path that you guys have taken. It sounds like you're doing a great job. I mean, you're house hacking. You guys did the renovations. You started a partnership. You're cash flowing. I mean, it's awesome stuff. For all of the listeners out there that, maybe haven't started investing yet, I think this is a a great example, of what they can do and what can happen if you just kind of start to take action and get out there and do it. So great job, you guys. I really appreciate you joining me on the show. I hope you had a great holiday, and I hope you have a happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, Whitney. Thanks again. Take care. And I also want to thank all of our listeners out there for joining us again this week. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Whitney as much as I did. That was a lot of fun. And I want to remind everyone to hit the subscribe button if you're listening to the podcast, and please leave us a review and rating if you're enjoying the show so far. Don't forget to check out Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're at The Invest Nest, so give us a follow there. And of course, go check out theinvestnest.com and create your free profile today and start networking. I hope everyone had a happy holiday season. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. Let's go out and make 2021 a great year, accomplish our goals, and achieve financial freedom and success. So thanks again, everyone. I'm your host, Travis Murphy, and we'll see you next time on the Invest Nest Real Estate Investing Show.
Thank you for joining us on the Invest Nest Real Estate Investing Show. Be sure to join theinvestnest.com and start learning and earning today.